Who's gonna run for mayor? Go back once.
All right, I'll be on YouTube. All right.
We'll have another meeting in Berlin, so let's go down a little bit. Yeah, and I'm just calling my phone. We love service. Okay, I really like that time to y'all come in. It's just fun. It's like you doing way a little bit or just like so where's I mean, I said the same one. Okay, technology is great until it doesn't work, then it's not so much. So we'll go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions we have for that or anything to add or comment on?
I guess so. The bids for the landscaping for downtown planters, we did receive a second bid from Rims, but they did not bid removing, maintaining it throughout the season and then removing stuff. And my understanding is in the past, when we've not had them do that part, they just don't get maintained. So we went ahead and recommended going with Wolf River Nursery, did a bid for the.
I think we had one summer where Stacy had seasonal water and that was not real effective, so. Do we have any other questions? I would entertain a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
A second there.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? None. All in favor? Aye.
I abstain on the minutes.
All opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Nothing under old business. We just keep going. Does he want to call in?
I asked if you wanted to call in and he said I would like to get Zoom to work. It's not. Zoom to work.
Well, we all like Zoom to work too, but. So then I guess we just go ahead and move on. No, sorry, it's not. Okay. Number 1, the show cause hearing for the unsafe and dangerous structure 310 Hiawatha Avenue.
So this hearing was set back in November when resolution 2023-19 was adopted by the governing body. And so this is an opportunity for the property owners to come and show cause as to why the house should not be condemned and ordered, repaired, or demolished. Don't see a property owner present.
No.
So essentially, there was a resolution in the packet and that would order the demo or repair. What we would need, I guess, is just direction from you all on what kind of timeline you wanted to look at. Property owner has not gotten any sort of permits, hasn't started any work.
In my opinion, I mean, I agree, we need to put a date on this. Obviously, we can't have any expectations over the winter. I mean, I guess I'd be happy if we said July 1st, 2024, that gives them plenty of time to hit any, when the weather gets decent. I know we have every right to do it a lot sooner, but we've waited this long. I guess my biggest concern is to make sure that they have a definite list of what exactly has to be done. I mean, I don't want to just leave it up to, as long as they're making progress, because who's going to define what that progress is? I think it needs to be spelled out pretty, I don't know, pretty specific would be my concern. I don't know what the rest of you commissioners think.
Now, this has been going on for probably close to 3 years and there hasn't been hardly any progress made, so. I guess I'm in favor of moving on with this and. I'd be comfortable with middle of the year to July 1st, whenever, somewhere in there. Your date.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of tired of the fibs of, I'm gonna get a building permit, I'm gonna get a building permit, and then that never happens. And if something meant that much to me, I guarantee you I'd be getting my stuff done and arranged to take care of that, to get done what needs to be done.
Tony?
I agree with you guys 100%. My biggest worry is that, well, that they're going to possibly, if for one time they keep their word, get a building permit, start work, do a little bit here, a little bit there. How much money are they going to spend on this? Money that they could be saving to, in 6 months, to be working on possibly trying to sell property, because the house isn't worth anything. $2,000, according to the courthouse. They could be saving money to possibly get an apartment. I just don't want to see them sink money into nothing.
Right. I agree, but that's not up to us to determine.
I guess that's right.
That's why I want to make sure we have it, spelled out, if it's through Dave or through you, Becky, or whatever. Exactly what process we have to, what progress we have to see.
I think that when we issue the building permit needs to have a detailed plan of what it is that's gonna be done to the property. And I think that is what we need to do for any demo property.
So then I understand that we'll go with that July 1st date.
So July 1st would give them 30 days.
No, July from now. They have now until
Not
July
30
1st.
days, 90 days.
It'll be more than that. February, March, April, May, June, they got 7 months, 6 months to get something done.
Oh, of course, what am I thinking?
It's okay.
I just feel bad about this, but something has to be done because, like you said, it's been 3, I think it's going on 4 years.
No, I think it's about 3.
Is it?
And I
But I
sense,
agree, I'll go with what you're saying.
and we just have to remember that it's easy to say this now, but when we have if the property owners come in, we still have to be very, this is the decision we made, so.
Yes,
I think we've been more than fair.
I do too.
Okay. So, I would recommend, or I would entertain a motion. It's presented, I mean, if you just want to read off of what's right down
Okay, I make a motion, where are we?
resolution number 2024-02.
Okay, ordering that the structure at 310 Hiawatha Avenue be demolished or repaired and indicate the deadline for repair or removal.
And the deadline is
July 1st, 2024.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 2024-02 with July 1st, 2024 as the deadline. Any further discussion? If not, no.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 4-0. So will somebody get a hold of them?
Yes.
Moving on to item 2, unsafe and dangerous structures identified in resolution 2023-17.
So when these came to the commission during the hearing, we didn't take any action on any of them. We had several property owners that came to speak. And we had a few real estate agents that were requesting that certain properties, not be ordered, not have a demo order because they had interested buyers. Some of those properties fell through and didn't change ownership. To start with, I guess we'll go through each one. So 914 Oregon Street, UP had, my contact at UP had indicated that they might be interested in doing a voluntary demo. And then they said, no, they're not gonna do a voluntary demo. And then we really haven't heard anything else. They have lessees in the buildings. And so they indicated maybe one of the lessees was gonna do the improvements. If it was part of their lease, so.
Buildings?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like storage or, I don't know. But I mean, nothing's happened with it. I think that, if we're gonna get anything to move on this, we probably are gonna need to adopt a resolution, with some sort of, with a date for demo or repair.
They're boogers to work with.
They what?
They're boogers to work with.
I mean, do we just stick with the July date for most of these houses?
We could, that would make it easy to.
Yeah.
The one potential issue is that, we have paid off the excavator and intend to sell it. So, I mean, I guess we could wait to sell it until after we get through those properties after July 1st. There's not necessarily a rush here, so.
We don't have to like rush to get the money for what we would get for it.
No, I mean, we're gonna have to do a budget amendment anyway. We have fund balance, so that's not a concern. And we're gonna have to do a budget amendment anyway. We didn't budget to pay it off. So,
And Brad, when it hits July, if we have all these things that come up with need to be destroyed or demoed or whatever, is that bad time for the city crews?
No, we can definitely get that done.
So 914 Oregon, are we doing July 1st? Okay,
1101 Miami Street, Pablo Carvajal, he has a building permit on it for $20,000. I believe they've been making progress. I heard there was a dumpster out there at one point. Dave, I don't know, have you been in the property at all to see what they're doing or?
I visited with the contractor that's doing the work, planning on doing the work there. It's Andy Trent, I believe is his name. He lives nearby there. It's kind of an exchange labor type thing. He's very adamant that he can do the work. I think the weather has been detrimental to their progress. One of the first things he did was to move the dumpster in there. But he's got a good handle on what needs to be done. So the permit is good until May of 2024. And it could be extended if there's no work or if the work is not completed. I don't see any problems with having work done, but it's owned by
Okay. So if he has the permit and you feel like then we don't really need to have a date to, or do we still want to have it just so they know that nothing's done by?
I mean, with the building permit, did they have any sort of plan attached to it or? Could you get with them maybe and see what kind of timeline they have?
There is a series of described work that's essentially the roof, framing, the sheetrock on the interior, and exterior refinishing.
Did they have like a timeline or anything though on how long they expected to take to?
The permit, as they know it, is good for 6 months.
And you go and inspect it before they're able
Yeah.
to establish the occupancy.
I have visited, the objective for the permit, of course, is to be the occupancy, and it's an R2 area, so it's intended for residential occupancy. And it won't be difficult to tell that it's suitable for the occupancy if completed.
Do you have something to add or?
I just $20,000 for a permit. And the commission. Is there a way that we can see do you have what do I want to say, do you have something that you can show us what this is gonna do?
I have the ability to write an estimate of what it costed to repair the structure. But keep in mind that the $20,000 is an estimate of the value of the work that's to be completed.
Sure.
And I have no reason to reject that as something valid. You know, some of the materials may be supplied to them for nothing, but they have materials available to them. Sheetrock is somewhat expensive, but it goes on fast, and he may have the ability to do that. But one of the neat things is there's a sag in the center of the roof, and that's due to some framing that was removed some years back, probably at or near the time the property was purchased or owned. I don't know that anyone ever lived there, but it went. It's just not been repaired.
So would you be able to possibly give us updates and pictures of
Sure.
how it's progressing?
Sure, I haven't, it's usually the framing, and then the electrical, with the framing not sealed up. So the framing is one inspection, the electrical and, accessories type thing is second, and then the finish work, and the, later, so within that period of time, and we'll know pretty quickly whether it's going to be done in November, or excuse me, May of 2024. So, yes, I can give you.
I have a suggestion, Sam.
No, Becky covered it.
So we still, though, would like to place the demolition on it, I mean, still put the date on it, just to see that.
Yeah, yes.
July 1st, yeah. That's what we're gonna do. Do we need to see if that's like, needs to be by commission date?
No, it doesn't, because once it's been ordered, it's
Oh,
just,
then we
when
just-
it's, yeah.
So then somebody would probably come in before, okay,
Yeah.
all right, so then 1109 Delaware.
So Brian Greer owns that property. He spoke with me after the hearing back in November, and he purchased the property because it was a rental that was just in disrepair. I believe he said he had gutted some of it, but essentially he's waiting to have money to be able to do work on it. So.
And he does or doesn't have a permit?
He does not.
Same thing?
Mhm.
Went to North 11th, that one, the shed was removed. They did not get a demolition permit, but the shed has been removed. 1011 Kickapoo, the property owners had a contractor who was working on it, had a building permit. It's still in pretty big disrepair, particularly the garage, and the contractor notified Dave that they are no longer working for the property owners anymore.
And so they refused to get a permit as well?
They got a permit, the contractor got a permit. So, but that contractor is no longer working for the owner.
Same thing. I'm on waiting until July when I see some of these properties. But I want to remain fair, so. 1007 Kickapoo,
That one was just the garage and it has been demolished. Again, no demolition permit was acquired, but the garage is gone.
and that's a whole nother conversation about not getting permits. I don't know if that's for another day or.
I mean, our recourse is just municipal court. We can cite them and then, assess fines essentially. So if you want to pursue that.
We'll get through this, yeah, I guess we'll decide. 900 Iowa Street,
So that one was the fire, and Vino Mendez, was doing some work on the garage roof. He does not have a building permit, and he is required to have a building permit to be living in that. If you want to.
Yeah, there's two separate issues there. One is the dwelling structure that burned, and in order to live in the motorhome, which he's living in, he needed to have a building permit to restore the house. And that has been done. And so, but we're not seeing any progress on building the house. And then separately from that is what was unsafe and dangerous was the accessory or garage structure aside from that. And he's taken the metal off the roof of the house that was burned and put it on the south side of the garage, but that was done again without a permit. And it doesn't comply with the way roofs are to be put on and placed in the city of Hiawatha. So he still has some time to develop some issues with the dwelling structure, but clearly the garage and accessory structures have not showed no evidence of compliance with getting a building permit or making efforts to restore the property to a safe condition.
and when's his permit up for the? Did you say, and I just kind of buzzed out on it? Because it says he's going to rebuild, so he can stay there in the.
I didn't make notes of that, but it was the permit is good for 6 months from the date it was issued. So, and it was several months after the post of the fire that he actually got a permit to, I'm thinking it was October, but But,
And then something like that, if 6 months comes in and he says, oh, I want to get an extension, I mean, how does that happen if there's been no rest of we?
you know,
Without an
there
extension?
would probably be a good reason for it if there were an explanation why there's a delay. You know, it could be money, it could be, concrete contractor, it could be, you know, and he's got dimensions of a 40 by 30 dwelling structure and room partitions and stuff in there, but there's other than some staking out of the location of the house, there's nothing, no evidence that there's much of any progress made on the dwelling structure. But the dwelling structure isn't part of the of this unsafe and dangerous.
Right, it's just. And 20,000 for a 30 by 40 dwelling.
Um,
I heard that.
oh, yeah,
I mean, that's,
Okay,
I think there was a building contractor that offered to sell a pre-made structure at a reduced price, but it was going to be the $20,000 isn't very close to that.
but for now, we just have to touch on the fact that. We need to put the July 1st date on doing something with these.
With the accessory structure as well.
It looks like this permit for the residential structure was, he got that in September.
Any other questions on that? Okay.
715 Potawatomi Street. This is one where the property owner, it's a brother and sister that own the property. And the brother would like to, gift the property to the land bank. This is just the garage at this point was the issue, that we went through with the condemnation on. It's not the house itself. And he would like to just give the entire thing to the land bank. His sister is not, no one's able to get up with her. Andy said that he was gonna work on trying to get some service somehow. But we also don't know if she'll be willing to go along with that or not. She was living there and now she isn't, so. I guess we could do a demo order on the garage itself. It doesn't sound like either of the property owners are gonna do anything with it. So we probably just need to take it down and assess it against the property. And you have to have those signatures. Yeah, that's. Yeah. Okay. July 1st it is. 7-Eleven Kickapoo. So it looks like they got a roofing permit and did a portion of the roof on the south. Is this the one that they came to the hearing? And,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
The
And,
brother,
yeah. And I think you had essentially told them that he'd done what he had to do to get off the.
he accomplished the roofing repairs. It's not the prettiest thing in the world. It was a commercial property. But there's far worse properties around. One thing that makes it look unattractive is there's the framing of a Quonset type structure that was a greenhouse is still there. It would be beneficial for someone that was gonna do the same type of business, but I don't think they plan to open it up. I've not had that discussion with them.
So just the plywood on the back side, that's okay. I mean, I'm looking at the picture you have there.
There was some framing originally that was exposed that looked like it was a link between the old Quonset type greenhouse and the commercial structure. But the roof of the commercial structure has been replaced on the south east side. And they've done a good job of that.
Okay, but like, what about like the siding you can see in the picture? I mean, don't we have something in our code that we requires that all surfaces be weatherproof, like painted?
Yeah,
Cause this is just like exposed, like part of the board or something.
it probably needs to be addressed.
I mean, and I understand they want to use it for storage, and I'm glad they fixed the roof, but it's just gonna keep deteriorating if you don't do something, so I wouldn't mind if you're able to reach out to them. Saying what else needs to be done. I guess I can't believe that that's up to Phil either. I mean, I don't know, you know better than I do, but I just can't imagine.
The property still remains in the name of the deceased owner. And the siblings or children have not taken measures to reopen the business. It's better than it was.
Well, it's definitely one to still give one check back on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just look at the picture, it's just,
You know,
Well, and I think they're under the impression that it is to code, because when he came to that meeting, he
Yeah,
asked what needed to be done,
He didn't want to spend any money on it to
Yeah.
begin with, so.
right?
Yeah, there are other things, I think the building could be occupied and used for something other than storage, but it's not my building. But I will, I'll visit with the owners again and see if they are making any progress. Otherwise,
so. You know, for Kickapoo.
This one has a new owner, they've got a building permit, they've done some roof repairs, they're working on the interior. They have additional work to be done, Dave, you said that this property owner has done other renovations,
yeah,
it's got a nice.
the new owner is Old Cedar Properties, and that's principally Richard Miners. Richard, I think, owns 4 or 5 other properties in town, and has for the most part turned those properties around and made them more attractive and usable to the occupant. So I'm reasonably certain Richard knows what he's doing. And just this morning, they have to, Evergy requires that we do an inspection before they put a new meter back in. And he's in the process of doing that. Now, the electrician that's going to do that, I visited with him this morning. There's this property and another, it's the 114 Potawatomi Street, the structure that burned. There's an accessory dwelling structure there that Richard Miners has also purchased. So he's got a lot of irons in the fire, but he's made progress on every structure that he's purchased and owned. That's his intent, is to turn them into marketable and lucrative properties that he has returned on his investment.
Well, I'd still like to hold them to that July 1st date as well. And I'm sure probably a month. At
They got
least.
their building permit in October. Reference.
I said, so hopefully we'll have updates as they go along. These properties, so. Okay. 410 Kickapoo.
We skipped one.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
411 Delaware is owned by Castle Rock 2023 LLC. It is a real estate company out in New York. I talked with the property owner a couple weeks back. This one, we did not go forward with anything because they had a sale. That sale fell through, the buyer walked away, and so they're still marketing the property. They asked for a list of everything that needs to be done to the property to bring it to code, which Dave provided. And they're asking how long would a property owner have to make the repairs if they were to buy the property. So if you guys want to do July 1, then you can tell them July 1.
July 1.
410 Kickapoo, they've got a building permit, they've done some work. Do you know much about the new owner, Dave?
Thomas Roninghouse, is the principal in the Castles LLC. And, I've been in the house and, they've done a couple things. One is that, they're tearing off or removing some of the collapsed, structure on the north, end of the dwelling. They've removed the ramp that was, adjacent to the structure and went up the front steps. And the inside is remarkably restored. And so I think he's got a good grasp. I visited with the contractor. He's got a good grasp on what he needs to do. And they've torn down the adjacent garage structure that at one time it was loaded clear to the ceiling with trash before Mr. Roninghouse owned it. So there's a lot of progress going on there, and I think it'll be restored to at or near its condition back in the 20s, probably when it built. So I forget what the dollar amount is. I think it's 20,000.
35.
35. And most of that is the contractor's labor and some framing materials, stuff like that. Otherwise, it's in pretty decent shape on the inside. Some of the plumbing, the plumbing is in bad shape. The electricity has been turned on, and they needed it to do some of the work inside. So I don't think that they'll have any problems getting it restored. That's the objective that they set out. They wouldn't have purchased the property without. I have no idea what they purchased it for, the dollar amount, but they've got a substantial investment in the property. So
They paid the back taxes.
and I don't.
Yeah, I have a question too.
I don't have any problems with doing updates,
But
inspections.
they don't have a building permit though?
They do.
Oh, they do, okay.
Yeah.
Cause I'm just looking at the pictures from last
Yeah,
time.
and it says that they're not licensed contractors.
Yeah, yes, this Courtney, I can't remember what his last name is. He's from Reserve. He's restored some other properties. In town.
These notes are from from the actual hearing, so, yeah, so that was the status during the hearing for now. They are licensed in.
And then the back taxes, yes, they have been paid, or do we? That's not.
He hasn't had a problem paying his back taxes before. I think that was at or near the time of the sale.
Oh, this is almost $10,000.
Yeah. And the previous owner was notorious for having properties with back taxes.
Okay.
I mean, don't you typically have to pay the delinquent taxes when you purchase the property?
I've seen some that the reflection of the paid taxes doesn't show up for quite some time. And so he clearly, the name has changed on ownership. And I wouldn't be surprised at what there are some updates to the tax issues. But I can't, I know his objective is to restore the house, and he's a tight one, so he's not gonna lose money. So,
Well, this is a cute little house, but there's a lot that we still don't know about. or what's going on behind the scenes.
It's probably fortunate that it's set unoccupied for at least close to 5 years, and I know. Because otherwise it probably would have been occupied and not taken care of. It's not been not taken care of, but
Yeah.
it has the potential of really being a standout structure in that neighborhood.
And 522 Oregon Street.
So that one was recently purchased by Brad and Carrie Unruh. There's been no building permit applied for or anything like that. We don't have any idea what they're planning on doing. But that was one during the hearing that they said that there was a buyer for the property. I'm thinking that was probably that is.
522, what?
Right, it's the,
Oh,
it's the commercial buildings.
522 and 524 are adjacent to each other. And when you look at it from the front, they have a common center stairway. And 522 may be changing hands, but the current owner is restoring the electricity so it can be turned into apartments and stuff like that. So I expect the new owner for 524 to do much the same. 524 has some problems on the rear because of the collapsing structure. I think that's maybe one of the things that will be removed from the structure. So I think if you give it some time, much the same as you've done with the other properties, that we'll see some progress on that soon.
Be nice to see him get a building permit. So is there anything else you need from us?
I don't think so. Are you wanting to do the July one on that property as well? Are we doing all of them or, okay. I mean,
I think there needs to be some day where something happens. Otherwise, I don't know what we do as a commercial building when it's kind of a bigger deal.
yeah, well, I mean, we don't have to tear down on the lifer.
Right.
If they're making progress.
And so the main thing is, I mean, how is the communication gonna go from here? Is that something that Janet helps with? Are they email or letters that go out? I mean, how are all these owners gonna know that we talked about it tonight and said July 1's your date?
Well, I mean, we have to adopt the actual resolution.
Oh, so yeah, that's right. you have to bring that back.
Yeah, but we can certainly get in touch with the property owners and let them know that this is the direction that we're going and that there'll be a resolution on the, I guess it'll be the next meeting, so that first meeting in February.
All right, we got lots of work for you to do now, Dave. Just keep going in this big circle, hitting analysis. Any other questions or discussions from commission members?
Well, the only thing I will add or say is that I'm glad that we have all of this for July 1. But, you know, this is just, like you said, it's been going on more in circles. So I see maybe an end to some of this. That's good.
And then perhaps when you bring the resolutions back to us in July, or not in July, in February, then maybe we can discuss what we want to do about the people who do the work without permits. I mean, there needs to be a lot more education in people, maybe they realize they just don't care of it. I guess as a commission, we have to decide, are we going to start taking these people to municipal court? I don't know if that's a discussion for today, but maybe in February. Sure. Okay. All right. Then we'll move on to who's next. Number 3. Okay, we're moving on to number 3, ordinance number 2125, and resolution number 2024-02. Personnel policies and guidelines.
So we talked about this at our last workshop that we had, I think it was in November, maybe it's December. But our personnel policy is adopted via ordinance, which is kind of strange. Usually policies are adopted by resolution. And so every time that there's an update to the personnel policy manual, that means you're adopting a new ordinance, you're publishing it, you know, it's just, it's a lot of unnecessary, I think, red tape. So, the ordinance would, you would say that they would repeal it being adopted by ordinance and then repeal the other ordinances and then say adopted by resolution, and resolution 2024-02 would adopt the personnel policy manual. We went through several changes that we discussed when we did our workshop on this item. I've had several conversations with department heads and kind of what they're looking for. A lot of the changes that we've proposed are a result of just small things that we can do to be more attractive to employees and to retain employees and also to attract new employees. Well, the first one's not, but first, establishing an initial probationary period for all employees. That is not something that we currently have in our policy. And we should, so it adds that, and then it exempts seasonal and temporary employees and volunteers from the city's nepotism policy. That can be an issue with Parks and Rec when you've got, you know, part-time seasonal people. So taking that out, and then providing vacation time credit for previous years of service of the city, or the city administrator's approval. So that is something that was also brought up, actually by back. And then adjusting the comp time policy to reflect actual practice. I think what it said in the previous policy was that we don't routinely allow comp time to accrue, but we do. So we needed to address that. And I think part of that came from because you're only able to carry over 40 hours of comp time per our policy. Apparently there is a federal law that says you can't carry over any comp time year over year.
Federally.
Yeah, so,
Slightly different.
yeah, in the policy, in the first policy manual that went out to you all on Friday, it said that we would pay out accrued comp time in that second meeting in December. We're actually gonna do it the first meeting in December, so that changed. And then, removing the normal workday schedule of 8 AM to 5 PM and the hot weather schedule of 7 AM to 4 PM. It seemed like, I don't know why we have normal workday schedules and have them defined in our policy. I mean, I think individual department heads should be able to manage their department and make sure that, you know, employees are available to customers when they need to be available. So this would take that out, and not to mention, I don't know that, yeah, because it says it's a normal, I don't know, those aren't the hours that every department works, so it didn't make sense in there. Then adding Christmas Eve as a city holiday, it sounds like most years you all adopt a resolution anyway to do that, so this would just officially put that in our holiday schedule. Allowing for accrual and use of vacation time in the first 6 months of employment with department head and city administrator approval. That has been something that can be a sticking point when you're trying to recruit new employees. The way our policy reads is you don't accrue any time in the first 6 months and you get your 1 week after your 6 months. There's a lot of times when people, you know, have vacations planned when they're coming to work for you, and their only option would be take time off unpaid. And so this would change that so that they accrue starting day 1, and they can use it in the first 6 months with the approval of the department head and city administrator. Changing use of time off for non-exempt employees from 30 minutes to 15 minutes. I just never seen it 30 minutes for non-exempt. I've always seen 15. So I don't know. I feel bad if an employee has, like, you know, they're gone for 40 minutes and they've got to take an hour. So anyway, I feel like it's more employee friendly to do the 15-minute increments than the 30. Eliminating the requirement that maternity leave starts after childbirth. That's how our previous policy read. So, you know, if you had someone on bed rest or, you know, whatever, you couldn't take maternity leave during that time. And so this adjusts that. Providing reimbursing employees for travel expenses based on the GSA rates. We had specific amounts for each meal, that didn't seem to, I mean, just hadn't been updated in a while, I think. And so the GSA rates, they have it for wherever you're going, here's the amount of like what a per diem is. Now, we're not just gonna hand over a per diem to anyone, it'd be based on receipts and reimbursements, but that would set the limits, on what they spend. Setting mileage reimbursement rate at the IRS rate rather than the state rate. I just Googled the state rate and I couldn't find anything, so I was like, I don't know why we aren't doing the IRS rate, so. Changing the residency requirement to allow for residency outside of the state of Kansas within a 30-minute drive of city limits. This has also changed since the policy went out. We had a conversation during staff meeting today, and Mickey had brought up, well, that cuts out a lot of places, Atchison, Seneca, several different places, and he's like, why don't we just put, in Brown, must reside in Brown County or a county contiguous to Brown County. So that would allow for different places, and I kind of playing devil's advocate, I was like, well, are you gonna hire a police officer that lives 40 minutes away, and he's like, well, if I have to. So, that's kind of the boat that we're in, it's definitely a job seekers market. Obviously, ideally, we'd like folks to live closer, but made the exception for me too, so. And so that the revised personnel policy would have that, Brown County or contiguous county. And then we also, in the revised copy that went out this afternoon, we had taken the deferred comp off of there because we didn't think anyone was using it. Is that the Keepers 457 or is that the Mission Square? Both. Okay. There are people that have it, so we need to put it back in the policy. I think that is a uniform stipend. Currently, Public Works gets a uniform stipend. Brad had requested that we would purchase those uniforms so that the uniforms would be uniform and the same. So that has changed in there. I believe that is everything. Andy did draft the ordinance. He's reviewed all the documents. And so in order to adopt this new policy, you would need to adopt the ordinance and the resolution, and then the newer policy, that any changes to the policy would be done by resolution and not ordinance. So our job descriptions were, and this is on the next on the agenda, but our job descriptions were attached to our personnel policy as well, which is strange. We've also never seen that. So we we're on the next item to adopt the pay plan. The job descriptions are attached to the pay plan and not the personnel policy. And essentially you all would then approve all the job descriptions, but then they wouldn't come back. They just come back to you if there's a change or, add a new position or something like that. And you can just, simply, you could put it on consent agenda, which is having to adopt a resolution to, have a new job description.
It's a lot of work. It was. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2125 and resolution number 2024-02, establishing the amended personnel policies and guidelines.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 20 or ordinance, whatever you said. You got it. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passed 4-0. We got lost. Okay. Moving on to number 4 then, resolution number 2024-03. 2024 pay plan and employee job descriptions.
Okay, so when the commission did the budget, the 2024 budget, we adopted it with, the equivalent of 5% pool of all employee salaries, for pay increases. And then at the last meeting in December, you all approved a resolution implementing that 3% COLA. We hadn't adopted a new pay plan, we just did the resolution, and then I said I would bring this back to you guys at this meeting. And so we had several changes to job descriptions that we needed to do, with Public Works combining all the divisions. And so we now have like Public Works Operator, Public Works Supervisor, and then of course Public Works Director. And so they're not division specific positions anymore, so we needed to adjust that on both the pay plan and on our job descriptions. We also added the treasurer position to the office manager position. Currently, we have an outside treasurer she just comes and looks at our books quickly, and this would go over to Jane instead. And so then it has to be someone with eyes on the books that actually, is involved in the operations. I think that would be more useful for us.
Auditors don't want to have an outside person come in as well.
I've never heard of having an outside treasurer.
Having somebody come and check, I'm once again, I only have the eyes of the education, and that's something I always say, that we have somebody who comes in and checks every month when we balance and everything,
Do you have
just,
somebody from the outside that can?
Yeah. so we have two sets of eyes. We have somebody who works, and then we also have somebody who comes in. And they always say that's a great thing to have, so I'm just looking at it from education,
Okay.
that is not city, so.
Yeah, I've never heard of having an outside, unless you're just a city that's so small that you can't afford a full-time treasurer employee. But we have sufficient employees, obviously, in the office.
Well, the auditors are okay with it, that's what I said, once again, I'm just looking through rights of education.
I appreciate that.
That's what I'm asking.
So I think those are the only, then it also added the code enforcement officer position in the police department, which is what Janet is doing. I think those are the primary changes of just the jobs. And then so the pay plan increases, before we just had each step was an exact amount of pay for everybody. So this actually has a range of, we increase the bottom and the top by the bottom by 3%, the top by 5%. For each step, and so each step has a range of that 3 to 5 versus an exact number that you and we have issues all the time with, oh, that person isn't exactly on this, step because it's 2071 and they're being paid 2073 or something like that. So this gives us a little bit of a range and also allows us to increase the pay in positions that we are struggling with filling, or those under market ones that we talked about. So yeah, that pay plan will allow us to implement that as well.
Okay, I have something to say. And I wouldn't have thought of it had you not said what you said about school. My thought, as you were saying that, is that there's 4 full-time employees in the office. Therefore, I thought it was a good idea. Instead of having the little gal come in. But when you said, as long as Dawn agrees with it. What? Did you not say that?
No, I said as long as the audit.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying
Look at you backing up.
that.
Oh,
No, the audit.
because I did not want to put you on the spot. But I was about to. Never mind.
No, just the auditor, because my auditor says I need that.
Oh,
But
okay.
schools are different than the cities, and so.
Yes.
I would imagine that this person who comes in probably doesn't do.
I think she just signed.
She signs stuff, right?
Yeah, she just signs off on it.
You know what? I would be glad for what she's making. I would be glad to sign off on it. because I trust you guys. Anyway, there I sit.
Yes. So yes, father, not on.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess I'm not Irish, huh? Okay. So, shall we have a,
Yes, we should have a motion. Would you like to make one?
I sure would, if I can get my, spit out my house. So. I recommend that we adopt resolution number 2024-03, approving the 2024 pay plan and approve the employee job description.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 2024-03, etc. Any further discussion? No?
On favor.
Aye.
All opposed.
Motion passed 4-0. Moving on to communications.
Communications, I have October and November 2023 financial dashboard. There are some, we still have some journal entries to do to adjust some of those things. It looks like a couple of the budgets are over. We will do adjusting entries to address that. So this is not, obviously, I put December's in there. There's also some transfers that need to be made. The transfer schedule was really wonky, like the transfer schedule and the budget forms did not match the actual individual transactions within each fund. It was just kind of messy. So we had done the transfers and then had to reverse them, and now we need to do the right transfers. So we will get that done, and I will hopefully have final numbers for you all. Well, they won't be final, obviously the audit is the final numbers, but have final numbers at the next meeting with December numbers. And then we've got the 2023 Tree Board Annual Report, courtesy of Commissioner Middendorf. And then we've got the annual meeting invitation from the chamber, which is Monday, February 19th at 6 p.m. at the Picture Center.
42 cedar trees. How big are those? How big are those cedar trees that you like?
But we're in gallon pots, so they stood about like that with the pot, including the pot. The ones we planted the year before were stakes about like that. We got the better trees this last year. When falls even more out of the ground out there, or not the ground falls out. Make sure they're still on the ground.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay, this would be acquisition. What's this executive gonna be under?
It is data relating to financial affairs, trade secrets, corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships.
That's not on mine.
Oh, well, I didn't make that sheet, so.
Okay, I would make a motion that the city commission recess into executive session in the conference room for 20 minutes to discuss data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships. The open meeting will resume at 7:19. 9:09. 7:08. Well, you have to add a minute to walk. 7:09. And to include, to include the city commission, the city administrator, and Jack Patel.
Second.
Been seconded, any further discussion? Not.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 4-0.
Mary,
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that at 7:11, the city commission is called back into open meeting. The commission took no binding action during executive session. Is there a second?
Second,
Moved and second. Any further discussion? Not, come on. Go.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I just assumed we all gonna vote yes. Motion passed 4-0. Governing body comments. It's cold. As far as me, I really don't have anything, I don't think. I should, but I'm not. This, I already said I enjoy having Boy Scouts here, that we do that every year. We need to recognize things like that, so. Commissioner Middendorf,
I don't have anything.
moving on to you, Evans,
I don't have anything tonight.
Tony.
I have nothing except, as I echo you with the Boy Scouts, and I'm so proud of our chiefs. That's all I have.
I can go and watch the game now, and I can watch it over and I can enjoy it this time, because I know the ending. Okay, so we will now adjourn. Do I have to do, I should know this by now. Do I make a motion to adjourn to a workshop or we just
Yes.
adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn to a workshop.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 4-0. Would it?
We close at 7.